those tariffs are much more popular in places like the Midwest or, other places in the South where some of the manufacturing base has been destroyed. The countries that are complaining the most about potential Trump tariffs have the biggest barriers to us. And there's every reason for US citizens to say, wait a minute, our markets are open to you. We should be able to manufacture. You should buy from us as well. And I think that's a reasonable point of view.
Thing number two, Gary, the free and fair trade dilemma.
All right. So, Rob, obviously the big news in finance over the last few weeks has been President Trump's tariff talk. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how he used the threat of tariffs to get cooperation on non-economic matters. In that particular situation, the country of Colombia was refusing repatriation of their citizens. President Trump threatened tariffs on Colombian products. And, the president of Colombia very quickly said, I'll send my own plane to pick up my people. That was an example of using tariff threats and trade threats to get cooperation on non-economic issues. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes President Trump is using tariffs or the threat of tariffs to level the playing field. And, because the United States has an enormous trade goods deficit, last year it was $1.2 trillion, with a lot of the imbalance coming from the BRICS countries. That stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. A lot of those countries have gigantic trade barriers for the U.S. So they like selling into our market, but when we want to sell into their market, they have trade barriers up. So President Trump said, you know what, we want reciprocity. If you want access to the gigantic U.S. market, you should be open to products from our countries. And at various times, he's proposed tariffs of up to 100% on all goods from BRICS countries. And at other times, he said, we will have reciprocal tariffs. If you have tariffs of 120% on U.S. goods, we'll put tariffs of 120% on your goods. If you're at 50%, we'll be at 50%. And so the idea of that kind of reciprocity is it forces countries to act as good actors. You want access to our market? Provide access to your market. Our companies should be treated fairly. The other thing is it does create a space to open up more domestic manufacturing, and that is important. A lot of the U.S.'s manufacturing base has just been destroyed over the last 40 years as we've outsourced a lot of our production. Not having that capacity is a potential national security issue, and it's created entire communities where people have difficulty getting good jobs, getting good wages. There's a lot of destitution, a lot of drug use. And I think, President Trump is trying to use a more level tariff playing field to help restart American manufacturing.
Gary, how are these tariffs seen, popular, unpopular, in finance circles?
Well, so Rob, that's a really interesting thing that's going on. So in general, Wall Street loves free trade and loves not having tariff barriers. And the reason for that is because, from our point of view, we get inexpensive labor, inexpensive goods, and companies that can import inexpensive labor and inexpensive goods report very high earnings, and we get a high multiple on those stocks. And so that works out well for Wall Street. Those tariffs are much more popular in places like the Midwest or, other places in the South where some of the manufacturing base has been destroyed. And, people really want those good jobs, domestic manufacturing. It certainly would reduce some of the destitution and drug use. And they're saying, you know what, stop outsourcing our jobs for higher earnings for our companies. And so, look, we understand both points of view. We would like to highlight the fact that, while getting cheap things is terrific, we definitely need, not having manufacturing capacity in the U.S. is a national security issue. We can't produce chips. We can't build ships. We can't make our own pharmaceuticals. These are huge issues where so much of that is made in China and Taiwan, which, is being threatened by China. These are big issues. And, one of the things I really want to emphasize is these countries that are complaining about potential Trump tariffs, they're not such good actors themselves. So just as an example, out of 88 countries listed in the Trade Barrier Index, and you can look at tradebarrierindex.org, out of 88 countries, Russia was number 87, India was number 88, Brazil in the high, I think 79, China in the mid 70s. The countries that are complaining the most about potential Trump tariffs have the biggest barriers to us. And there's every reason for US citizens to say, wait a minute, our markets are open to you. We should be able to manufacture. You should buy from us as well. And I think that's a reasonable point of view. And it's not crazy for President Trump to pursue that as a goal to make things better for all Americans, not just the stock market.